The mysteries of ARMS extend further than just the fights and abilities. Who are these characters as people, and what stories do they have to tell? Follow me as I tell you this story of love, pain, and regret. Springman is a character known for being the poster boy of ARMS, literally and lore-wise, but not much is known about the man behind the mask. The apparent story centers around him and two other characters. All of them have a much deeper connection than you might think. These characters I mentioned before are Max Brass and Dr. Coyle, and I can safely say that they may very well be Springman's parents. Okay then, let's start from the beginning. Max Brass is the 52-year-old reigning ARMS champion, the greatest in the sport's history, and we know ARMS as a sport dates back since around 120 years before the events of the game, so we can say Max has been a fan ever since he found out about the sport. It took a while for the sport to take off and sustain a pro league, since the amount of people with the ARMS ability is less than 20% of the entire population and probably even less by the time the sport was established. But its eventual success led to the creation of many organizations, like the splitting of the ARMS Ministry into the ARMS Labs and League respectively. The famous Spring Gym also rose up as well. They give the elusive title of Springman to an individual after an extensive trial period with lots of applicants and once the previous one is ready to pass on the torch. Our Springman is currently the third person who holds the title, with the second one being the one we see in the comic. So, who is the first Springman? Well, it's very safe to assume that this is none other than the comic himself, Max Brass. This image you'll see shows a person with a body type similar to Max's, wearing the iconic Springman collars and a champion belt, which is probably his first. Maybe it was Max who gave such prestige to the title of Springman in the first place, considering he's still the champion after all these years. His current design shows us that he is wearing all of the champion belts he's obtained through the years, so he probably passed on the mantle once he became the league's commissioner after winning so many times. Dr. Coyle is a 48-year-old head of the ARMS Labs. She's also been into ARMS since she was a young girl, so much so that she started studying the mystery behind this wonderful ability, rapidly increasing among the population, and in a path almost parallel to Max, she rose to the top as a genius scientist. While there are less details about her backstory, it's easy to see them as close contemporaries, even with the 4-year age gap. Going back to the old Springman picture, we can spot a woman who looks similar to Coyle alongside Max, and even if this isn't her, Max and Coyle were destined to meet as they were both heads in their respective branches of the organization. It is implied that their eventual friendship flourished into a beautiful relationship, and it is here where our Springman was probably conceived. Unfortunately, this happiness wouldn't last long as Max said terrible things to Coyle which caused them to fall apart. We don't know for sure what Max could have said, but this caused Coyle to go into hiding, making no public appearances and hiding her identity as just Dr. C. Coyle went insane into her research and even experimenting on herself. This new mindset of hers probably made her think that a kid would be a waste of time. So as dark as it may sound, she probably got rid of Spring when he was still very young to remember it. Considering all of this, it makes a lot of sense why Springman doesn't recognize either of them, and why Brass doesn't recognize Spring as well. Heck, he doesn't even know he has a son. But what about Coyle? She should know about him, right? Well, knowing Dr. Coyle, she probably kept close tabs on her son, just like she does everyone else who is notable and has the ARMS gene, so we could say she was always watching him become a top competitor in the sport. Another thing that points in favor of this theory is Springman's personality and abilities. Just like Coyle, he absolutely loves ARMS and is very passionate for what he does relating to the sport. However, he gets the most out of his father Max, in the form of his moxie, his determination, following his footsteps as a Springman, and most importantly, his special powers, in the form of the Shockwave and the 25% comeback. This point about special abilities is much more important than you might think, as abilities are pretty much unique to fighters. So this whole ability thing just screams heredity. The game doesn't really explain the fighter's additional powers that much, but Max and Spring essentially having the same powers and attitude says a lot for this theory. Additionally, the Biff dialogues in Coyle's Grand Prix route has Biff reading Coyle's secret journal, which has data on everyone. In this case, Coyle is writing stuff about Springman, basically saying that he lacks the discipline to be truly elite. This can be read as just Coyle being really observant of her opponents, but you could also read it as her scolding her son for not being as good as she would like him to be. Keep this in mind for our next and final point. This leads us to Springtron. We know Springtron was created months before the events of the story, or perhaps even in the midst of the Grand Prix, as his age is 0. Springtron was created by Coyle and the Arms Labs to be the perfect fighting machine. But why did she base it on Springmen specifically? Was she trying to create herself a perfect version of her son, with the best discipline and obedience? Well, I might be reading too much into everything, but it would be a neat surprise if it's ever revealed that Springman's parents are in fact Max and Coyle. And that's it for the theory, everybody. I worked on this script for a while to make it concise and informative, and I also thought it was about time to bring fan speculation to the channel. Just like with any theory video, this is pure speculation, so it may be proven false in the future, but like I said, I would be pleasantly surprised if this turns out to be true. I also wanted to mention that this channel is already 1 year old, and that we passed 200 subscribers. I'm always eternally grateful for all the support you keep giving my content, as it means a lot to me to be able to thrive making content on my favorite game. Anyways, that would be all for today. Let me know what you think of the theory, and if you have anything that could potentially counter it, as any type of arms speculation is welcome here. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more arms content.